Today's practice is the first in a series that I'm calling Creative Mobility for Hips and Shoulders. Today's practice is one to return to when you're feeling low on energy, when you're feeling like you need to move, but you want to move in a way that's soft and slow. When you're needing to move, but maybe you've had an injury of sorts or a particular pain pattern, and or you're looking to repattern and you want to be able to move in a way that allows you to track that sort of repatterning. This practice is really good for recovery in the sense that it will help with your nervous system health and also kind of the good circulatory benefits that we get when we move in these joint ranges. If a range isn't working for you as I'm cueing it, then change the range. There should be no pain or a huge amount of effort in today's class. Of course, you will be putting in energy to your system for sure, but you also get to make choices about how much, and we're really working with gravity as our primary partner. So if a joint range isn't working for you, change the range and or change the pathway, okay? And find something that will work for you. You'll notice that we're gonna do things repetitively. So we're kind of having this kind of like dynamic design in a way where we'll be doing things a handful of times in each of the ranges. So you'll have a chance to find what's most supportive for you. Before we begin, I would like to read a prayer and have this class be part of this prayer. So as we're coming into presence, there is a way that we're connecting not only into this field that we're sharing today, which talked about as a sort of parallel play, but as you'd like or as you desire, dedicating your practice to the larger collective. May those that are thirsty and hungry be satiated soon. May those who are unhoused have shelter soon. May those who are cold have warmth soon. May those who are sick and in pain be soothed and find ease soon. May those who lack safety have protection and be safe soon. May those who are living in fear be nurtured and have peace soon. I invite you to come and lay on your belly, and you'll notice that I'm going to be seated here at first, and then I'll come to my belly with you. And I invite you to come to your belly and see if you can find a place where you can be comfortable, where your legs are long, and finding a way where your head can feel easy. I usually like to cross my hands and put my forehead on my hands so my eyes are facing down. But however you'd like to do, facing right, facing left. And as you come into the floor, belly facing down, allow your body to open to the body of earth, to open to ground, to allow gravity to start subtly pulling you in towards the center of the center. Allow part of your centering to be your breath itself. Allow your body to breathe you. And to feel that as you exhale, you can kind of let go or release in the way that's right for you. Especially any kind of holding that you might have around kind of the muscular band in your torso. And those small ways that we sometimes hold around our guts. Allowing your belly button to be a sort of centering that lands with the center of earth. Our parasympathetic nervous system is oriented more towards the front of us. And so lying on the earth here, Perhaps you might notice that kind of resonant quality of being able to find ease and support in a way that can really enter you, where you yourself can be a part of support and ease. And noticing the weight of the other parts of your body too that are in contact with the ground. So the front of your legs, allowing your thighs to soften. And notice where your feet are in contact with the ground. Maybe your feet are long and it's the tops of feet, or maybe your toes are tucked under, it's the sides of feet. Allowing those bones to soften, ankles to rest. However it is that you found kind of an easeful place of your head, tracking all of the work that we usually need to do, kind of even in a kind of reflexive way around the neck. And on your next exhale, seeing if you can soften that kind of subconscious support that we always need for our visual system and to be upright. So all of that work can soften a little bit too. You might notice how then that changes the weight of your arms into your shoulder girdle and your torso. If you're finding yourself a bit like agitated or kind of like not so centered or still kind of out there and not quite in here, not kind of like meeting the exact quality that you want, that's okay. It's totally normal. So just continuing to find the ease that can bring you into comfort. The small practices of attention that bring you here invite you into a practice of recovery. And you can either keep your head down while we're doing this kind of opening warm up on belly, or you want to kind of pick your eyes up and have your head up in a little bit of kind of that prone position, and that feels comfortable, then you can do that too. So noticing right thigh, and maybe start rocking that leg around the right thigh. So I'm really rocking through the right hip, but I notice that that moves my entire leg, right? And I'm starting to also feel different surfaces around my foot. But I'm really focusing on this subtle rotation from knee up to hip, moving around kind of the fleshy part of the thigh. Of course, there's a lot of different muscular layers there. And rocking it in a way that I might even be able to contact up into the pelvis, maybe even notice how that changes the quality around sacrum and front of belly. And then pause that leg and go to the other side. And I'm noticing that I'm actually kind of tucking my toes under. So I'm feeling the rolling across the pads of the tops of my toes. Allows me to have a little more weight between knee and hip, rolling through the left. Allowing all that sensation to start to trickle into your brain. And then returning back to right side, bending the knee, heel comes close to your hips, and then lengthening the leg out. So a simple knee bend in and out. And just notice what it's like to extend and flex the knee. You might notice a little bit of the movement of the patella in this position. 4 or 5 times, and then go to the other side. Just an easy knee bend and drop. Starting to get a sense of how much work you actually need to do this simple task. And then back to the other side, go ahead and fold the knee up. So I'm on my right side and I'm letting my heel just hang towards my hip in a weighted way. So it's an easy fold. And now I'm going to rotate my big toe towards my other leg. So this would be external rotation at the hip. And I'm kind of like making a figure 4 in a way. And I'm not sure how far your foot will come. My foot can almost touch my leg. Then I'm going to go the other way, internal rotation. So I'm taking my foot out away from my midline. Going back and forth like a windshield wiper. And notice the different tensions around the hip as you move back and forth. And just moving at a nice, easeful pace. You can choose your tempo. We often talk about moving at the speed with which you can track. You could also add on to that moving at the speed, which allows for the least amount of effort, but you're still in control, okay? And then let that leg go down to the ground. Pause for a moment. And then fold the other leg up, same thing. So rotating in, rotating out. Back and forth. And checking in that your breath is moving in, moving out. I'm noticing now some subtle tension changes, not only around sacrum, but also through pelvic floor. And lowering that leg. Other leg coming up and now circling. So I'm going to move out to the side and then circle down. And then I'm going to be in that kind of like across the midline. So a great big circle, you know, and I'm not quite bringing my foot all the way to the floor. I'm keeping my foot in the air. You can choose how big this circle is. And if you start to notice that kind of the bony contact's not so comfortable, just place something underneath your hip. Okay, like a little blanket or something. And then go the other way. These are sloppy, right? So you're controlling it as much as you need to, but you're also letting gravity help so that you can just move into that full range of motion without holding back, without resisting. And I'm letting that leg come to the ground, sensing the floor, and then other side. The other side, easy. Easy peasy, circle in one direction. Really allow it to become juicy up in the hip socket. Again, notice how that might influence your pelvis. And I'm going the other way. And then that leg coming down. And then finally, both legs up together. And this would be like an air knee drop. Both feet drop to one side now, and both feet drop to the other side. Okay, so it's kind of like a double windshield wiper. Or again, those of you that know knee drop, this is a version of that in a belly position. And as knees or as feet go to one side together, and the other side together, start to notice you're getting a little rotation in your pelvis, and let that happen. Let your pelvis rock back and forth. It's going to be weighted in the right hip when legs go to the right, and weighted in the left hip when the legs go to the left. And then if you'd like to circle both legs together, you can do that. So now I'm taking both feet through an air circle, getting a full kind of spiraling motion through the entire lower body in a gentle way. And now I'm going to go the other way. A little bit of a belly massage. And then letting feet come to the ground. And take a moment to return back belly to earth. Feeling into the simplicity of this. All right, little head lift. When you lift your head, reach one arm out. I'm just going to tell you which one I'm doing. I'm reaching my left arm out. My right arm is going to fold to the side so that I can start to rotate to the side. right? So I'm going to do this by eyes up, one arm reaches, the other arm folds by my body. And then I can use that folded arm to push my shoulders and torso back. I'm going to keep my legs to the side and I just get a nice easy rotation. I mean, my legs come around a little bit, but it's mostly I'm twisting my upper body kind of against or in the opposite direction of my lower body. And then I'm going to roll back to belly the way that I came. And I'm going to do that on the other side then. So one arm goes long, the other arm bends. That arm that bends, that elbow that bends, my eyes will naturally go towards that hand. Hand pushes the floor away, and I let my shoulders and torso melt back to the floor, letting my legs just fold up and move the way they need to until I can get into this easy twist initiated by upper body. And then I'm going to move back where I came from. My legs spoke down, I lengthen back, I find belly. Okay, go back and forth a few times, soft body rolling side to side, feeling that rolling point of contact across your shoulders, just noticing the easy joint folding and unfolding of both your upper limbs and your lower limbs as you do this. You're allowing more sensory feedback to enter your skin and superficial fascial tissues through this ground touch. And eventually you'll end up on your back. So when you kind of feel complete with that, end on your back. Allow your legs to go long and your arms to come overhead and to be in a star position. All right, so here from star, imagine that you could traction yourself. So traction is like when somebody comes and pulls on the end of the limb and they give kind of sustained pull and it opens some space within the joints, especially the hips and the shoulders. So from star here, imagine one of your legs. I'm going to start with my left side. You're reaching it down, or you can imagine that somebody's pulling it. And my pelvis twists as well. So I might even think about like reaching my left sits bones down, but it's like reaching your leg out and away, seeing if you can create some sensation through that tensioning around the hip socket. For me, I feel it also kind of on the outside, the lateral side of the hip. And then a reach down the other side. So a back and forth reaching one leg at a time, seeing if you can do some self-traction through that reaching. Another way to get after this would be like to charge your heel down. And you are going to have a shift, right? There's going to be this lateral rotation. Side to side. It might be because I have a 3-week baby kitten in our house that we rescued this week, but I'm thinking about the kind of how the baby, the babies do the kind of making biscuits thing back and forth. And I'm doing that with my legs. And we'll let that settle and do the same thing with your upper body. See if you can do self-traction. So I'm going to reach one arm out and away, that high Y. Going to expand through that side of my armpit, that side of my torso. And I might kind of move my head a little bit. Now, this might also invoke some pandiculation, that spontaneous body yawning. And if it does, let that pandiculation happen, let it express itself. Otherwise, the pandiculation might be kind of more micro or small, and it's happening just in the fact that you're reaching back and forth. Now begin reaching a traction down the right leg and the right arm at the same time. So I reach down with the right, reach up with the right. So down with the right leg, up with the right arm. There's a side body opening here. For those of you that know the body half flexion patterning, it's kind of the beginning of that, where you give yourself a long reach through that side before the other side folds. But you're just indulging in the tractioning part, the reaching out and away. And then if you haven't pendiculated, but you feel like a pendiculation needs to be there, go ahead and just approximate one. Reach everything out at once. Oh, see if you can inhale, expand. Maybe that gives you a yawn. Maybe you even just kind of do a fakey yawn to get that kind of stretchy, squeezy reflex going if you need it. All right, and then bringing arms to your side after that. Legs are long. And now find your heels on the ground and start rocking over your heels. So rock in so that your big toes are coming towards your midline and you're more weighted on the inside of your heel, internal rotation through the whole leg. And then follow that rolling point of contact outside the heel bone to the most outer edge, pinky toes come closer to the floor. Roll in through the heels, roll out. Okay, and at first do a handful where you're going slow, you're like tracking the rolling point of contact, cross your heels. And then start to do more of a kind of a quick wiggle or shake back and forth. Heels are still very anchored. So it's a quick rock all the way up through the thigh bones. And I'm doing it so both legs come in and out at the same time. Could even bring in a little bit of a knee bounce there if you wanted some more movement. Again, pretty sloppy, right? Just kind of letting it be what it is, initiating it, and then letting it repeat. And then let that go in the legs. Notice any sensory feedback from that, changes in tissue quality. All right, with arms low then, consider this traction that we were using and continue to use that traction as is helpful for you. So it might be helpful as we're doing these rotations up to traction a little bit at the same time. But essentially, we're going to do kind of like a spider walk up with the hands. So I'm starting with my hands up. And I'm just going to rotate palms down and move my arms up a little bit. So kind of like along the snow angel pathway. And then I rotate palms up again. Then I rotate palms down. I move up a little. Rotate palms up. Spiral the shoulder joint, rotate palms down. And I'm slowly moving up this snow angel pathway. Palms up, palms down. That's rotation deep within the shoulder. And I'll come to a point where I just can't go anymore, right? So I'm like, okay, there's my end. And then crawl the hands back down. Palms down, palms up, rotating through the shoulder, tracking along this snow angel pathway until they come all the way to the bottom. And then let your arms rest at your sides. And draw arms up to a T position. So they're just right out to the sides of the shoulder. And drawing the right knee up now until your right foot is on the floor. Okay, so the one leg stays long, right foot draws up, sole of the foot on the floor. Let the knee drop in. And then knee moves back out, leg slides down. Okay, see about doing that in one swooping movement. So it's like the knee draws up, goes across the midline, moves back out, toe draws down. Sliding up, moves across, moves back out, and draws down. Same leg. Okay, it's repeating that over and over in the timing that's good for you. And notice here how there's very little movement anywhere else in the body except for the hip and of course the knee because it's folding and unfolding, but everything's really right in that leg. Pelvis is fairly quiet. Everything else stays yielding into the ground. And then on your next repetition, change legs. Knee slides up, knee goes across, knee goes out, and drags down. Okay, as much ground contact as you can have in this. Right, so as soon as a new body area finds the ground again, so for example, when your leg slides down, immediately allow that support to help you. Okay, that reduces the effort right away when you're in contact with the ground. And legs rest. All right, attention to your right arm. So go ahead and fold your elbow, okay? And then let your fingers kind of reach across your body, right? So I'm just gonna reach across, it's like floating over my torso. I'm gonna reach until I can just feel that I'm kind of getting some change in the shoulder blade along the side. And then elbow goes down and arm goes out. Elbow fold, reach across, elbow down, arm down. Elbow fold, reach across. Okay, now this position can be vulnerable in a lot of shoulders. So this folding, this kind of closing of the shoulder joint across the torso. So give yourself as much space as you need there. So if it's feeling a little pinchy, then just bring your arm up in space a little bit. Change that range, change the pathway like we talked about. If your head moves along with your hand, because you're getting a little bit of the torso rotation there as the shoulder blade moves away from the ground, let that influence happen, let that sequencing move. And then go into the other side. Elbow fold, fingers reach across. Elbow fold, arm lays on the ground. And every time your body comes back into contact with the ground, let that reduce effort and reduce work right in that instant. And then letting arms come to rest. Go ahead and sliding arms back down to being a little bit lower and closer to your legs, to your hips. All right, back to right leg, slide knee up. The foot comes to the floor, but this time push the foot into the floor and let that rotate the pelvis up. So that's going to be a strong push right there. And then pelvis rolls back down to the floor, knee moves out and drags down. Okay, this is the same slide you just did, except for when the foot comes to the floor, you're going to push the floor away. Pelvis is going to rotate. And then pelvis comes back down to the ground, knee falls out to the side and slides. Okay, so foot push, rotating the pelvis. Okay, so this mobility is more within the center of you or the core of you. Push, rotate. And depending on how you work with the timing here, might experience a nice wave-like quality in the push and the roll back down and the leg moving out. And then letting that leg rest, moving to the other side when you're ready. Knee, foot finds the ground, push the ground away. That side pelvis rotates up. More weight is going to be dropped down to your long leg and other side hip. Then let the pelvis rotate back. Feel the length or the width of the back body, knee out, leg long. And then letting that leg find rest. All right, with arms long right here, go ahead and bend your elbow. Let's see if you can kind of slide your hand along the floor. So I'm going to bend elbow, and then I'm going to reach fingers overhead, the arm straightens, and then bend elbow, and then lengthen arm to the side. Okay, so bend elbow, reach up, elbow back to your side body, and reach down. Now, if your arm can't stay along the floor during this entire pathway because of things happening within your joints, then that's okay. Let your arm come up off the ground as you'd like. So it can stay along the floor for as long as you're able to, and then do the movement hovering above the floor, or again in a range that feels healthy to you. Again, whenever you do make contact with the floor, let that reduce your ease. Folding and unfolding the arm as you're moving the arm up overhead. And then relaxing that arm. Going to the other side. Fold, extend, fold, lengthen. And you can explore the different ranges that can happen within your lower arm, right? So we have rotation that happens through the forearm because of the bones there. And so your wrist, your hand, can seemingly rotate in a different direction than your shoulder. You can explore all those subtle nuances as you'd like. And then letting everything come to a pause. Take a little bit longer of an augmented rest here, maybe a minute or so. And in this pause, either allowing yourself to rest in whatever place of comfort you'd like, on your back, on your side, on your belly, and or listening for any movements that your body might like to make, kind of as a way, kind of piggyback on what we've already been doing. All right, coming back together, we're going to bring feet up to standing feet. Many of us are familiar with constructive rest position, and usually in constructive rest position are standing feet, knees bent. Heels are kind of relatively related to the width of hips. Take them out wider. Okay, so gosh, my heels might even be a little wider than shoulders, obviously what's comfortable, but knees are still at that easy bend. You're just kind of taking the feet out wider. And in this position then, go ahead and stabilize the left foot. So the left leg and kind of left side body is going to be like a rooted kind of feeling. Okay, so stable there. And then let the right knee fall in. Let it fall in, let it just be there for a moment. Okay, and so this is a big internal rotation moment for the right leg. And again, the left leg is staying real stable, so don't really let it move out. Okay, kind of keep it right where it is to emphasize this internal rotation that you have on the right side. Right, and notice with that internal rotation, you're weighted on the inside of your right foot. Okay, so there's more weight on your right big toe and on the inside of that heel. And then wag that knee out. Keep that other side stable. See how far your right knee can fall out. Now, when I do this, I come to the side of my right foot. So now more weight's in the pinky side. And I am feeling a tensioning through my inner thigh. So kind of adductor complex. And I'm also, as I keep that in a sustained way, I can start to notice that move through, again, kind of my pelvic floor, pelvic muscles there. Yeah, so back and forth, letting the knee fall in. And then rolling point of contact across the foot, knee carving in the sky, knee falls out. Okay, now with this one, I recommend doing the first few relatively slow. Okay, this is a big movement for our leg. We don't often kind of explore, especially the internal rotation like this. You just want to kind of track and notice what's happening within the joint, within the muscle tensions around the hip, pelvis. And then as it's feeling more comfortable, see if you can go a little bit quicker in terms of just more flow, more dynamic. So falling in and falling out. And I'm using the word fall real specifically here because, again, that's our relationship with gravity. You're still in control, right? So it's like a slow fall, but you're gradually reducing the effort to allow gravity to work as your partner. And then letting that leg come to ease. I'm actually going to lengthen that foot out, flex through my foot. I'm going to give my leg that traction we worked with earlier. And then I'm bringing my leg up. Okay, other side, knee falls in. First, just experience the internal rotation there. Experience the yielding of the weight of your leg. On this side, I'm noticing tensioning right across the front of the outer hip and where the TFL muscle lives, up into the deeper abdominals. And then rolling point of contact across the foot and really tracking that foot, knee arcing out, and that knee moves out. Notice how this leg might have some different feedback than your other side. And recall that your other side is maintaining its stability. Okay, we're not really letting that other leg move. Okay, so in and out. Make sure your breath is still moving too. Soft observation of your body breathing you, air moving in, air moving out. And then once you're feeling comfortable, moving with a little more flow, easy fall in, easy fall out. And then once you feel complete with that side, again, if you'd like to give yourself a long reach or kind of self-traction through that leg. Pandiculation reset happened for me. Okay, now bring your feet kind of more into kind of a traditional constructive rest position. So a little bit more the width of your own pelvis or sits bones, heel in relationship to sits bones. And then both knees drop to the right. Okay, easy knee drop. And as your knees drop to the right, notice how your pelvis goes into rotation. Okay, notice how you have some of that internal rotation on the top leg. It's just not as extreme. And then moving your tail back to roll the legs up. Okay, so knees follow the other side. They initiate the knee drop. Pelvis then initiates knees coming back up. Drop, recover. And if this feels okay to you, see if you can get a nice wave-like motion back and forth, really allowing all of the joints to move, right? So you have each hip socket rotating, and then you have this rolling point of contact across the sacrum. Obviously, very subtle movements will happen in the joints from the sacrum into the pelvis, but we know there is subtle movement there. And then also we have the subtle movement of the lumbar spine. All moving in a concert, but each of those joint moments having their own rhythm, back and forth. And then knees come to stillness, back to constructive rest position. Take a moment to feel them return to quiet, lower body to quiet. All right, and reaching both hands now right up to the ceiling. So hands are going to be right above the shoulder joints. And begin by allowing the shoulder joints themselves to sink down into the floor. So it's like they're really dropping their weight down into the floor. You might notice now the shoulder blades kind of changing. You might feel a little flatter, maybe even feel a little awkward as you sink the shoulder joints down. And then this tractioning, where you're reaching fingers up to the ceiling, let that pull through the shoulder joints, they lift, and then keep pulling until you feel a rounded moment through your back body, shoulder blades sliding out to the sides of your torso. There'll be a moment where you can't reach any further, and you might even notice that your neck starts to kind of curl a little bit more because of that strong pull. And then lowering down. Okay, so back and forth with that. It's like let everything sink, and then self-traction, reaching up, shoulder joint moves, shoulder blade moves, and down. Right, so all this availability here. It's really helpful to know this because in some movements, adding in that self-traction, or what we talk about in somatic groundwork as the reach, the force of reach, you can find kind of the best positioning to place your arms for various movements. Now, if you'd like, start widening out the arms. So as if the arms, we're going to move down to the floor. So my elbows are still pretty straight. I'm just getting wider and wider, continuing to reach in traction, and then lower, sink, compress, reach in traction, lower, sink, compress. Moving out, moving back in. I'm not going all the way to the floor, just kind of like a little bit the width outside my body. And then let the arms rest after that, just coming back to the ground, sinking, finding ease. Now reaching one arm up, and then really kind of like reaching it all on its own, and notice how much rotation you can get if you just do one arm. So if I reach up and then even a little bit across my midline, really start to get some torso rotation there as well. Okay, now we're going to do this where we have the right arm reaching this way and then the left arm. So right arm reach and release a little bit, left arm reach and release a little bit. And both arms are kind of staying in a somewhat active position, so they're not coming all the way down to the ground. I've seen some teachers talk about this like climbing a rope that's kind of like hanging right over you here. So if you want to imagine that, if that's helpful, but it's like this reach and release back and forth in rhythm to where you can get a rocking through your upper back. A little bit of a massage through the space between your shoulder blades and right on top of your shoulder blades. My head is also rolling back and forth. And however these cues are working for you, see what you can do to create some kind of rhythmic, rotating, and reaching rhythm. And then letting that go, arms coming to your sides where it's comfortable. And again, we'll take about a 30-second kind of interval here, either allowing you to rest and find quiet, or to make any small micro movements or adjustments that your body would like. All right, so construct a rest position, right hip circle. So right knee goes out to the side. I'm gonna try and keep pelvis relatively constrained and also left leg. So I'm just getting a big juicy hip circle in the right hip without pelvic motion. Right knee goes out to the side, slide the side of the foot down, roll over the heel, slide the foot back up to where it started. So knee goes out, toe reaches long, roll across the heel, knee draws up. Okay, and once you kind of have the parts and pieces and you notice where it is that you're supporting this big hip rotation, see about finding the quickness that's right for you to get some flow and ease within the hip. You're just moving in one direction, knee out, leg draws down, heel across, draw up. Now, in terms of this, spatial intention with the knee can be really helpful to create literally more space within the hip. So knee goes out, toe goes long, there's a little bit of traction there, knee draws up, space in the femur, down. Okay, so the knee kind of spatially organized as a reach, and then also the drawing down of the leg is going to help give more ease within the hip motion. All right. And then letting that leg go quiet. Let's go to the other side, same direction. And wow, did the sensation in that leg change with that? Knee goes out, go kind of slow first. Knee goes out, draw down the side of the foot, roll over the heel. Okay, notice that that leg reach there can give the traction. Knee reaches up, space in the hip, curves to the outside, lie down, roll over the heel. Least amount of effort. Notice if there's any overflow that happens, like if your jaw starts getting a little bit kind of stiff or around your chest, right? Or kind of around your belly, like none of that needs to happen. You know, everything empties out. Might even roll your head side to side while you do this, just to keep the neck soft. And then letting that leg come to stillness. Okay, other direction with the other leg. So leg slides out first, rotates out to the pinky side. Folding there, you have external rotation, knees out to the side, and then rolling point of contact across the foot, knee zips in. Drag the foot down, there's that traction. Roll across the heel, pinky to the earth. Knee folds and then draws back into midline. Okay, so once you've mapped that, you know where the support is. Then find a tempo where you can allow for the flow of movement. Everything else keeps softening. And then bring that leg to quiet. Feel that foot on the floor. Now that foot's going to be your kind of stable base for the other leg to move freely. Leg draws down, roll across the heel, pinky to the earth, knee folds, knee zips in. Now I realize we all have different surfaces we're working on, you know, from carpets to smooth floors. So, you know, just do what you can based on the resistance of the floor. Make it as easy as possible based on the, materials that you're working with. And then letting that leg come to rest. All right, so with arms at a T, this is going to be fingertip reach here. So my right arm's at a T, palm is up. I'm going to start taking my thumb to the floor. Fingertips are going to reach up overhead then. My elbow is bent. I'm going to draw a halo around my head. If your fingertips can stay on the floor until they reach your opposite shoulder, do that. Otherwise, just have them up in space and use more support around your shoulder girdle. So this is essentially an upper circle around the head with one arm, right? And it might actually kind of work better to cue that you're starting from a slightly folded elbow at the side. And then your fingertips reach up and over, As my fingers draw a circle to my opposite shoulder, I'm using my eyes also to track my hand. Of course, I'm not going to see it entirely, like as the hand goes overhead, I'm going to lose sight of it. But essentially allowing for some rotation of the head along with this movement. Now, this is a sticky movement for a lot of us. This is the shoulder girdle needing to go into upward rotation at its highest range. Also requires shoulder abduction and flexion, plus internal rotation. Anyhow, all of that to say that this particular set of ranges is challenging. So find what works for you. Create the ease so that you can repeat this rainbow around your head. And then let that arm soften. I'm actually going to bring that arm all the way down now to a low, easy spot. Other elbow slightly bent, fingertips are a little bit higher, and they draw a circle, a halo overhead, rainbow, whatever is your best image. After you figure out what's going to work for you, you can take your eyes and head into it. You know, and you need to also be smart about that. For some people, rolling head on the ground can get a little dizzy making, so you choose. See what's going to be best for you. And then letting that arm go. Taking both arms to the side. All right, let's end with a whole body swing. So we did knee drop. As your knees drop to the side, let the top leg release and swing across. Now, as I'm swinging across, toes are staying on the ground. This is similar to what your arm just did overhead. Now your leg is going to do it around the other leg. Okay, and so what this means is that essentially my feet never leave the ground. So I knee drop to the right, my left big toe never leaves the ground. My left knee stays bent, so it falls with the knee drop, crosses over the top, and then folds up, natural endpoint for the swing. Okay, there's a nice lower body twist here too. And back up. So map that a few times on one side of your body. Swinging across, coming back up. And then map it on the other side. Notice what feels open, notice what feels sticky still. Hopefully after all of those movements we've done today, there feels more release than anything, more ease than anything. All right, so once you have both sides mapped, go back to the other side, but as that leg swings down, let the arm swing overhead. So it's what we just did, but it's going to be easier because you're rolling to the side. Leg goes under, arm goes over, and just mapping one side. The other side of your body that's towards the floor is folded and easy. And then go the other direction. Arm goes under or over, leg goes under. And then once you've got that, going side to side, swinging to the right, swinging to the left. And the next time you come to the side of your body, kind of curl yourself up into a little seed and push yourself to seated. Allow yourself to find the seated position or movement in seated that works well for you after doing all that movement on the floor. From this seated position, take the next movement that'll allow you to get your feet underneath you in some way so that you can roll up from the floor. Eyes are open, becoming aware of your surroundings. Seeing if you can keep the qualities of softness and ease that you had on the floor as you come up to standing. Okay, take your time. Yeah, getting your feet underneath you, and at some point finding your way to standing, rolling up through your spine. Any movements that your body needs, any adjustments. And taking these final few moments in our practice today to organize yourself into standing presence. Seeing if you can again connect with that sense of ease from the floor. Notice if anything's shifted. Doing a final check-in with yourself. Taking some part of this practice, some goodness, some juice from this practice, kind of packaging it up into a little moment, a little felt sense morsel, one that you can take with you today. And see if there's 2 or 3 or 4 more times that you can return to this little morsel, to return to this felt sense goodness of the present. Thank you so much for joining me for Somatic Groundwork, everyone, today. I love moving with you.